Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. Welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on planet Earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking a greater possibility in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality, and soul. Listen to their stories, hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest on this week's Her Conversations is Helen Nachintu. She's a natural health coach and mentor. She also is a researcher and broadcaster on her program This Is Life on Roku TV. During our conversation, we talk about health, healing, and how long-held beliefs and unresolved trauma create disease in the body and taint our ability to see and receive truth. We also share what we see as Black women experiencing the Great Awakening. I personally believe that race has been so perpetually weaponized to create a division that the healing that will be required as more truth is revealed is, at this point to me, unfathomable. We also talk about spiritual gifts and personal experiences of our spiritual gifts. So this is a bumper episode, and I'm truly grateful to have found a kindred soul in Helen. So as always, I begin by asking my guests, Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel you're most her?
Well, I've got to say, when I feel my most her has got to be when I am helping other people to overcome their challenges. As a holistic practitioner and a health and well-being coach, my job is always to, which is not really a job, is always to look after others. And people come to me with different challenges, whether it's health and well-being or emotional health and being, whether it's physical health and well-being. And, you know, people come to me with business issues as well. So, and I feel my most her when I'm helping people overcome those challenges that they need to overcome.
Perfect. And can you just give us a little bit more about you, Helen, and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, how long have you got?
Well, give a potted history, because we know that we can talk for hours about so much.
Yeah, like literally I could be here a whole day just giving you an answer to that one. Okay, I will begin from, I was born in Uganda. I came over to the UK when I was 4 years old, and I've been back and forth to Uganda. I've schooled primary school and secondary school in both countries. And mainly during the summer holidays in Uganda, we were all shipped off to the village. I say shipped, but, you know, it wasn't, of course. But we were all taken to the village to help our grandparents on the farm, look after the livestock, and do some farming as well. So during that time, actually, my grandmother, she used to take me around the village as a young child, and she used to show me all the medicinal herbs, you know, how to prepare them, what they treat or cure. And at the time, I never really understood what she was grooming me for. So cutting a very long story short, you know, later on in life, I did so many jobs, so many other different jobs, but I kept coming back to natural health until I finally made a decision to actually, you know, really root myself in natural health and well-being. And that was really inspired not only by what my grandmother had taught me. I mean, she has since passed away. She passed away in 2014. And it was kind of shortly after her passing. And then I had a health situation, whereby I had been suffering from fibroids anyway, pretty much, I would say pretty much since I was a child. Because I started my periods very early on. I was 9. Yeah, I thought I was 10. My mom keeps saying, Helen, you were 9. And right from day one, they were very heavy and everything else. So I developed fibroids, and then developed endometriosis. And then, just cutting a very long story short, after 4 operations to remove the fibroids, which kept growing back aggressively, and after being given every single medication and trial drug and injection in the world, before I got to know really what these medications were about, I was told at the time that the only treatment for the condition I was going through had to be medication. By every single doctor I saw, every single specialist I saw said exactly the same thing, until it got to a situation whereby I basically collapsed on the bathroom floor, couldn't move. I was laying in a pool of blood. My daughter found me. She was only young at the time. And, she called her grandmother. Next thing I know, there was an ambulance at home. I'm in the back of an ambulance being driven to a hospital. And I've come around and they've said, well, you're back in the same situation. We're really sorry about this, but you have 2 options. The first option was I either have another operation where there was no guarantee that I wasn't going back in the same situation of, having big, massive fibroids. I mean, at the time, my stomach looked like a 6-month pregnancy. My fibroids were that severe, and I was just bleeding nonstop. I was severely anemic. And of course, with that came a whole load of other complications and issues. So anyway, my 2 options were another operation with no guarantees. And the second one would be to remove my uterus to stop all the issues completely. So I was offered a partial hysterectomy. And given the fact that I'd become debilitated through this entire process of being ill with fibroids for the longest time ever, and heavy periods and everything else. And so it was a heartbreaking decision to make. I was 33, 34 years old. And I thought to myself, oh my God, how do I make this decision to just stop having babies at such a young age? And I still wanted more children. Now, I was fortunate that I had my daughter, so it's not like I'd never had children before, but it was still a really tough decision to make. So anyway, I just, at this point as well, I had stopped going out of my house. I couldn't go to visit friends or anything like that because I was just constantly flowing. And there were several occasions where I messed up my friends' sofas, and in most cases, they weren't even wipeable. And it was just hugely embarrassing. I had to work from home because for the very same reasons. And as gross as this is going to sound, I literally was in a situation whereby I was in a meeting. I was running my own company. I was in a meeting, and I got up at the end of the meeting, and as soon as I got up, I could feel this rush. And I was wearing a pinstripe skirt business suit, and literally the flow just trickled down my leg, right into my shoes, no tights. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I just hope to God that nobody is seeing this. I don't know how I managed it. I kept a straight face, shook everybody's hand, said goodbye. They left, and I made a beeline straight to the bathroom before anybody could actually realize what was going on. So, that was a situation where I was at, and I didn't have a life, really. I couldn't go anywhere. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I was tired all the time, and I was just tired of being sick and being in that situation. So I made the decision to have the hysterectomy, which was a partial hysterectomy, which meant that I still had my ovaries intact. So yeah, and I just remember coming out of the theatre, when you're coming round in the recovery room and stuff, and they called my mum into the recovery room because I woke up crying, nonstop crying, having realized what, had just happened to me, what I had allowed myself to do to myself. I was like, the guilt, It was just horrible, really, really horrible. Would never recommend it to anybody. So that's really what spurred me even more to really, really get into the natural health and well-being and really ground myself and get my business up and running, because I sat there during the recovery of my operation, still feeling sorry for myself, still crying loads and loads and loads. And I sat there thinking, there has to be. There just has to be a natural cure for this, because the more I was reading about this, it was affecting Black women mainly, and Asian women, Indian women. And I was thinking, what is it that we are consuming that is making us like this? So the more research I did, the revelations were incredible. And I thought, right, okay, now that I understand it better, I can approach it from a food perspective. And so as a result of that, I'm just going to cut a very long story very short. As a result of that, I found a super food, which is also a super herb, that along with, you know, a certain protocol and obviously changing your lifestyle in terms of your food and your dietary intake, because it has to be a change of lifestyle. It's not as easy as, let me just pop, you know, this superfood for a couple of days or a week or whatever, and everything will be fine. No, it's a whole body reset. And then, of course, you know, it's a mindfulness approach as well, because if you don't believe that the superfood you're taking is going to help you in any way, shape, or form, guess what? It won't. Because your body is always taking instruction from you. Yes. So, you know, you have to be very present with yourself and very present with your words and your thoughts, because your words and your thoughts on a daily basis, every minute, every hour, every second, is exactly what you're programming your body for. So if you program your body for illness, guess what? That's what you're going to get. And, you know, at some point, I realized that I had to take responsibility for myself and my illness and everything that I had been through. And I looked back at who I was as a person growing up, what sort of things, traumas I held on to as a child. You know, you're talking about a child that went through civil wars in a third world country. And then I was fluctuating between countries as well. I went through the most amount of racism because for one reason or other, and I will never understand it. And I'm sure my mum was only, you know, trying to do the best for us. She sent us to predominantly white Catholic schools. And then, of course, I had an issue with religion from the day I picked up. I remember seeing, it was the newspaper at the time was the News of the World. And I don't even know whether it exists anymore because I don't.
Wow. Rest in peace, that one.
Yeah, so I remember bang in the middle, on the front page was a Catholic priest who had been accused of sexually abusing a 10-year-old altar boy. I was about the same age. So I was like, I'm done with church. I'm done with confession. I'm done. But it wasn't that I didn't believe in anything either. I still believed in, you know, my creator, but just not in the way that I was brought up to believe. So, you know, I grew up with all these issues that I carried through to my adulthood, and then a series of what many people, I suppose, would call failed relationships. But I always say there's no such thing as failure now. I see it like that now. You know, every sort of perceived failed relationship is just an opportunity to learn and to grow and understand yourself better. So, of course, I had to take responsibility for all of those emotions that I was harboring within myself and the language that I was programming into my body on a daily basis. And when I looked back, I thought, it was the worst. The worst. So how could I possibly expect my body to actually support me from a health perspective in any way, shape, or form? And I think it's really important that people recognize that if you have an illness, there's a metaphysical reason for every illness that you have.
And it's interesting what you say about, in particular, obviously we can talk from the perspective of being Black women, that there just seems to be certain recurring things that are almost expected to happen. You know, my background from that as well, like certain things were expected to happen. It was like, you know, there was a lot of, there was much mental illness there as well. But then there was also the diabetes, the high blood pressure, the overweight. It was almost like expected to, you know, enjoy yourself while you're nice and slim, because when you get to X amount of age, it's like almost like the click of a button, then the pounds are just going to, you know, automatically come onto you. And what always used to confuse me, or I always had I wouldn't say confused, but I had a question about it, just in inquiring, that, you know, it was almost like the women, they had this life experience, but then they'd always, you know, have a picture that, you know, when I was your age, I used to look so good and back in there. And now it just seemed that when you got to a certain age, then the last 25, 30 years of your life were just going to be managing illness and regret and defeat in some way, shape or form. There was no overcoming of that, including the fact that they went to church every week. And I couldn't understand. It's like, well, if you're so rooted in the scripture and the Bible and you believe in all of these things, why does your life look so painful? You know, and I made a conscious decision or unconscious decision that wasn't going to be my path, and went like that. And kind of went round the houses, because particularly the times that we're in right now, we can talk about, I found that I've really gone all about circle and come back to, you know, really looking at like picking, you know, my godmother sends me a scripture every day by WhatsApp. And, you know, and it's interesting how people will, like, any kind of meme that's attributed to some random person that probably isn't true online, and then will get triggered by a piece of the Bible that will say exactly the same thing, but because it's got a verse underneath it. So there's a lot of truth in there, but because religion has kind of cloaked things and made things a little bit difficult, that they're not seeing they're not seeing the reality of it, and seeing the reality of the world, seeing the reality of the word, but also recognizing the traumas that they have unconsciously carried all the way through their lives, that are now manifesting as certain illnesses that they think are hereditary. And as a result of them not dealing with their trauma, this hereditary thing is something that's going to befall you. And it's like, no. And, you know, I'm hearing in you that you're the one that just, the cycle breaker, the black sheep of the family that's going,
always.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to perpetuate this thing. I'm not going to, you know, if I see of ones that have held on to things that happened in the 60s or the 70s, like you can talk about it at the drop of a hat and still go back and not understanding, regurgitating the story of that trauma or that thing that certain person did for you, and all the rest of it is like your body is going through it there and there again, and you're just like re-energizing that pain in yourself, and that's why you're in pain today. And then, but it's how do you then explain that? Because they're being like, why are you saying it's my fault? It's like, kind of, sorta, but it's like, how do you gently explain to somebody that their experience on every single level, externally, what you see in the world, what you perceive in the world, but also the nature of your health is down to you?
You know, that has got to be one of the hardest pills to swallow. I know at the moment, due to the current situation, we're going through this red pilling and blue pilling stuff, but you think that's hard? Wait until you've really got to face yourself full on and take responsibility for everything that you have ever experienced in your life. And you know what? Unless you can do that, you are not going to heal from the things that you are attempting to heal. I have seen so many people say, oh yeah, you know, I need to heal this, and I've done this, I've done that, and nothing's happening, and I'm still suffering from this. And, you know, I sit down with them, and this is, you know, mainly clients that I see, and I sit down with them without sort of divulging names and breaking any confidentiality. In general, I will sit down with a client and I say, well, have you ever sat down and taken absolute full responsibility for absolutely everything that's ever happened in your life? And they look at me like, And you can just see suddenly the pennies dropped. And it really depends on how you say it to them.
Right.
You know, the tone of voice, the demeanor, your aura, everything. So it has to be approached from a very gentle perspective. But, you know, I've seen that penny drop in my clients so many times. And then they say, well, actually, how do I start doing that?
Right.
Because I think you're onto something here. And then I say to them, okay, yeah, these are the steps that you need to take, blah, blah, blah. I won't go into every step right now because, you know, we only have so much time for this podcast. But really, in general, unless people take responsibility, full responsibility, not partial responsibility. Even the clients that say to me, oh yeah, I have taken responsibility for that, this, that, and the other. And then we start digging a little deeper, and then we find there is this mess right here that they're still holding on to on, you know, an energetic level. And it's the reason why, you know, they can't heal certain things that are happening for them. And yeah, it's a very interesting process. And a lot of people are just like, no, what are you talking about? You mean it's my fault that blah, 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 this happened to that person? And because I said, actually, yeah, if it's appearing in your life, you have to take responsibility for that.
I mean, one way you can perhaps twist it, sometimes it works on this level when I'm, you know, trying to like present an idea to someone, is like, you know, you just don't know how powerful you are. This is how powerful you are. It's like you don't even realize that in thinking that you are affecting that. You know, you have manifested this situation in your life because even though you don't think it's making you comfortable, it is actually creating a certain situation. An example of this used to be, I used to work for at the events, used to do a lot of work in the events industry and like expos and exhibitions, you know, which is an industry which is out now. It's just, you know, that's got cleaned out. But one of the time I used to meet so many women that had fibromyalgia, and it was like the newest thing, you know, because before then it used to be ME that was the newest thing, and then it kind of moved into this, and I was just like, it's like almost and they used to lead. I knew their condition more than I knew their name. And it was like, you know, busy exhibitions, thousands of people. So my job is to meet someone, find out a little bit about them and sell, basically, you know. But it was just so interesting how people would almost put their hand out and introduce me as, hello, my name is fibromyalgia. My name is,
Yes.
my name is, you know, and you're like, you know, but they're leading with this and trying to understand what it is about that. And then when you kind of go, because I mean, sales is psychology anyway, but also when, like you say, with healing and everything, like you have to kind of work out where energetically this person is holding on to that, the benefit of that. And a lot of the time when I'd speak to these women, and it's not that I'd ever psychoanalyze, it's just I'd start to hear from them because I didn't understand the condition at all, was a lot of them and would be in a situation where they were doing everything in the household. They become almost this invisible helper, you know, so they were doing all the stuff for the children, doing all the stuff for the thing, and nobody saw them at all until they were incapacitated and they needed the attention turned on them because they had this thing. So if you imagine, like, you've been, you know, you've raised the family, you're always getting up in the morning, the house is perfect, the kids go to school, they look well, they've got their eating, you're serving your partner, but no one's seeing you because all of these things get done, but no one's seeing you until suddenly you sit down and you can't move. So if you've suddenly got all of this attention, why are you going to let go of it? As painful as it is, why are you going to drop it?
So that's like saying some people are addicted to their own pain without actually realizing it. Now, I just want to go back to a point that you made just before about making people realize how powerful they actually are. On an energetic level, we are all super powerful. We are all superhuman. An example of that is when I've worked with clients and we have removed certain limiting beliefs or stuff that they've been holding on to that has been causing chaotic situations and challenging situations in their lives, when we've removed that, what tends to happen quite often is the people that they are having issues with in their lives, they then get healed simply because that person has healed something in them that was creating an issue within the relationship. So, you don't have to go to them and say, oh yeah, I think you need to go and see a counselor or this, that, and the other. You need to go and get help. No, what we have to do is stop pointing the finger. Right. If you want to heal people around you, don't tell them to go and see a counselor or a therapist or, don't tell them they've got issues. Just heal yourself. Right. When you begin to do your own inner healing, you then begin to heal the people around you and the relationships around you. I have seen that happen so many times. Even in my own relationships, I've seen it. So, we have to remember that we are super, super, super powerful. And the other thing I want to point out as well, with healing, people always think, oh, there's something wrong with me. No, it's growth. It's growth. And growth can be painful sometimes, but it doesn't always have to be painful either.
Yeah, and it's that transformation. I mean, I'm all about change and transformation, and wanting to be a better version, just to see what the possibility is, because we don't even know the limit to what it is that is available to us because of the reality that we live under, or the perceptions that we live under about who we are as human beings. And when I think about how I found out about you, was very much about tapping into the times that we're in now in terms of awakening.
Yes.
And I saw your video on the Anna Breeze channel where people were coming forward and they were waking up and and actually seeing that there was a little bit more to the world, and questioning what was around them, and that is how you transform. And it was just good to see, because it was I suppose with a lot of people who've always felt that something's not right, and there's always been digging around and looking, you never really know who you can speak to, or you very quickly realize how far a conversation can go.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah. So you try and say something and it just kind of hits a dead wall, or it flies over their head, and you're like, okay, we'll just kind of keep it here, which is cool. But especially when you want to speak out and speak wider, and the internet has helped us kind of just see that we're not alone, and this kind of idea that we're compartmentalized people that have just got these crazy thoughts in our head. It's not that at all. It's like there is that spark within our individual soul that knows something is up and knows there is more. And especially in the last year almost, that the world has been quarantined for one reason. It's actually triggered another thing. So you can't keep good people down, you can't keep good souls down. And this moment in time has been about people rising up, people waking up, people starting to see the illusions of the reality, the limitations on themselves as human beings, as spiritual beings, actually fall away from us. So it was great to kind of see you out there speaking, and also, not wanting to always make things about color, but sometimes you have to.
I was going to say that.
It was just,
I wondered if you were going to go there, because, you and I were speaking just before, we started recording the podcast and everything. And, we spoke quite in depth about various things and how we in the Black community are perceived when you are not exactly 100% going with everything that the Black community is preaching, or whatever the trend is within the Black community at the time. You really get a hard time.
on so many levels, and especially if we go back and start talking about a wound again, is the wound of racism that gets played and played and played and played so many times, and gets, you know, it's so easy to trigger that unhealed wound of racism and suppression and white supremacy and whatever boxes you want to tell us that we're under. You know, and interestingly, it is always wealthy, well-insulated Black people that are telling us how terrible things are for us. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, like, isn't that the biggest joke ever?
don't do that. But also, and that's how we get played so much. There's that. And then also it means that then you can then wheel out another blackface and we just fall for it. And you know, it just reminds me of when I was younger growing up, and we had a TV up until a certain point, and it broke actually in Roots when they were playing Roots.
That was
the last time.
That was probably a blessing in disguise, right?
So I grew up listening to Radio 4. Can you imagine the Archers? You know what I mean? But it fed my imagination. So, and then when I was older, I bought my own TV, and then, you know, had to go through the purge of that. But it was always, I always remember, even if I was outside, you know, playing with friends or something like that, if ever there was like a black face on TV, I would get called in. It was a momentous occasion that it was like, oh, come and have a look. You know, there's Black people on a game show. There's, you know, it was a big thing. And the thing is, that thing never left you, so that you got so used to being underrepresented that you would like allow any black face to then represent a good thing or represent your representation without actually digging in a little bit further to find out who this person is, their background, what they stand for, their agenda, who is paying them.
Yeah. Do you know something, though? Something that's come to mind again, and it's always at the forefront, is when are Black people going to realize that there isn't anybody out there victimizing them? They are constantly victimizing themselves. Yeah. And for as long as you are in a victim mentality, it's going to be very difficult for you to move on in life and move on from certain illnesses and emotions and stuff like this. And I feel that this actually is highly contributory. The way Black people see themselves in terms of victimization is a massive contribution to the mental health issues in Black communities. They're causing their own mental health issues. I say they, not because I don't think I'm Black, by the way, because I don't subscribe to that. I have never, ever subscribed to, you know, this Black and white mentality. You know, I'm Black, so I will never get anywhere in life. I'm Black, so I don't have white privileges. Well, no, I don't get that. I really don't get that. And I don't subscribe to that. And I'm not a PC person either. I don't do political correctness, because that's all nonsense that is just sent to divide us and, again, create more mental health issues in society. Nobody needs that.
No, and the thing is, I went on my own questioning of like, well, maybe I'm not woke Black enough, you know, maybe I've not read the books, maybe I'm not following the right people, maybe I'm not, and, you know, I really started to investigate that for myself, and read what it brought up in me is, one, this hypervigilance, waiting for these supposed microaggressions that were going to come. So you're walking around on tenterhooks, believing that the world is an unsafe place. Every person with a white face is out to get you. Anything, you know, you're just literally waiting for it to happen. And the thing is, if you're walking around like this, you're going to see things that don't mean anything, and you're going to interpret them as something, and you're going to have this layer of hurt and anger and problem just sitting there waiting. And then when the media is ready to trigger you and put out another event that's going to send you crazy, there it is. You're just literally, you're there ripe for the picking, and you're going to cause unrest. And then you're going to be able to be manipulated and played into whichever way you want to be. And you know, there are too many instances of, events that have happened in recent times, that when you start to look at it, it's like, has the reality of that situation being presented to us fully factually? Was it a factual situation at all? Or when we're going around and we're like waving flags and calling up people's names, is like, do we really know who that person was? Do we know the circumstances of that death? Why are we calling certain people heroes?
I called that one out on Facebook while I still had a Facebook account. And we're talking about George Floyd in particular.
And also other ones as well. Yeah.
And Antifa. I remember on Facebook, I did a 3-way live conversation. And, I'm just being me. I just say things the way that I feel they need to be said. I'm a truth seeker. I'm a health activist. I'm all about knowing the truth about the situation and about the matter. And, so many things were so wrong about the whole George Floyd thing. I mean, I'm not going to go into any depth, but, there were a number of things that we were pointing out of George Floyd, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, the hashtag BLM. I asked, is it a healthy hashtag? Oh my God, did I get a backlash or did I get a backlash? I got called a shill, a coconut.
Uncle Tom, it's all right. I've had them.
Uncle Tom, you know what? The feedback was just so personally venomous towards me, and I just thought to myself, do these people actually realize that how thick my skin actually is? Because I don't care about all these things. These are just words. The reason they are reacting, because they haven't even stopped to think about what I just said, they are just used to the normal programming and conditioning of stay in your lane, don't look outside the box. And the reason they were mad at me is because they were just staying in their lane. And that really triggered something in them mentally, stirred something up to actually react like that towards me. But you know what? If it helped them to awaken somehow, and hopefully later on they went on and did a little bit of research, then you know what? It's good.
That's happened, but I still, there's a ways to go. there's like a major ways to go, unfortunately. And I think with the younger generation, there's a little bit more awareness of what's happening, in terms of what is real and what is not real. But those who are of older generations, where that story is so deeply rooted, and then they're going to tie it into like, you weren't there when this happened, and my trauma from this, our ancestors, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, let us understand that slavery in itself didn't solely just happen at a point in America, and it wasn't just white people owned by black people or black people owned by white people. The reverse is true in all over. But like, think about how things are pinpointed, and let's just hone in on this little thing and keep reminding black people time and time again how terrible white people have been to them. And so you just keep victimizing black people and guilt tripping white people. And it's like, so there's this major standoff of like,
it's turning people against each other. And you know what? That's one of the reasons I have an issue with Black History Month. We don't have White History Month. We don't have Chinese History Month. Right. We don't have, Asian History Month. Why do we have Black History Month? Why hasn't any Black person asked themselves that question? And I do have an issue with the whole Black history, because I kind of feel that when Black people finally realize what has been going on and how badly or how great they've been played with this whole Black history stuff, when they finally realize the true history of Black people, they are going to be as mad as hell. Really mad. And I'm not going to go into that. That is not the point of this podcast. I just thought I would just put that out there. And hopefully the penny will drop for people who are watching this or listening to this. And they'll go off and do research outside of the history that they are being taught. I would,
just pique curiosity and ask a question, and ask a question outside of your usual circle, you know, because otherwise it's just an echo chamber where everyone's just talking about the same old things and how terrible things are and how bad the man is doing us, and all round and round and round again, and like 5 years, 10 years, a generation passes, and then you're passing on that misinformation and trauma down to the next generation, and nobody is healing until the one person that stands up and is ready to be called the Uncle Tom and the Coon and all of that kind of stuff. It's like, come on, bring it, say it, you know, do it. Because when I look at the certain thing, because that last thing that happened when everyone was putting up the black squares and the hashtags and everything, it's like, another thing we need to understand is this is a visual world as well. There's a lot of energetic work that gets done on us, and you know, the way that we get controlled energetically, and also what we put out energetically, and things that we see, and symbols and signs and numbers that we get told don't mean anything, or it's a conspiracy. It's all of that black square thing. I got someone send me a message going, this is what we're doing, and I'm like, why am I doing it? I don't know anything about this. Where does this come from? Because the little bit that I know about black squares ain't good. So why am I going to...
You know, I kept telling people not to black out. That's very satanic. It's not good at all. But also, on top of that, when all this whole George Floyd thing was going around, I was receiving messages when I still had a Facebook account, which I've since deleted, don't want to know. But I was receiving messages on a weekly basis from Black people who were delivering the message in a really frantic, angry, mad way. And it's like, I just wanted to forward this message on to each and every single Black person. We must start buying Black. Let's support Black businesses. Let's support each other. So on this particular date, share, you know, only support Black businesses. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. Where is that going to get you? I said to myself, I am not sharing this. I am not sharing anything that isn't going to be helpful to anyone else in any way whatsoever in terms of their growth. A message like that was only designed to really play on people's psyche and mental health. I'm thinking, well, okay, so you're going to support Black businesses for one day. Where is that going to get you exactly?
Yeah, and the next day you like getting your stuff from Amazon. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so it's okay to support Black people, Black people's businesses on this one particular day, but for the rest of the year, you are going to buy your stuff from Amazon with Jeff Bezos having done what we all know he's done. That's okay, though. I'm sorry, but you know, I just couldn't go with that. So that message went nowhere apart from delete.
Yeah. And I think with, you know, the awakening with all people, but in particular I hear it from there's a lady out there that does a lot of work around the Asian community, and she appears on a lot of different things as well, and she's always saying, you know, how's she going to reach her own community, because they're so deep in the spell of the trance of the world, and how, you know, especially when they're looking at and they get told that certain people are the paragons of virtue, certain people are the racist ones, certain people are the Uncle Toms, and not knowing, it's like you're allowing something external as opposed to this internal guidance for you to go, well, why do I think that? Why, on what basis? It's like we just kind of take it, open our mouths up and just get spoon-fed any version of events without going, well, who's it that told me this? Why do I think that? You know, because I had to look at what I was taking on board when I was looking at certain things, going, well, why do I think that, where did I get the information from that Donald Trump was a racist? Hang on a minute, where did I, you know, I just kind of like, I wasn't paying attention. So it was just, you kind of get swept into the slipstream of it. And then when you look, you realize, actually, I'm not sure that that's true. Yeah. Why did I get swept up in that? everyone did, and I got sent private messages from family members I hadn't seen for years.
Yeah,
About, telling me about, well, look at all these people, look at all these black sellout people that are supporting him, taking a picture of like really nice family that had gone to a rally. It's like, look at them, how terrible it is, giving me a link to a Facebook group that was just going to be full of the most toxic, hateful, why am I going to accept this thing? And I was, just sent a message to go like, why are you sending me this? Well, look at them, coons, sellout, we must protect our own support.
Anger again. As I mentioned earlier, for every disease, there's a metaphorical reason, physical reason behind it. Anger, the liver.
Right.
So a lot of angry people will suffer with liver conditions. One of the books I use in my healing sessions is this one here.
Oh, Louise Hay.
Yeah. I highly recommend this book to anybody that is looking to understand themselves better from a healing perspective. And if you've got an ailment going on, an illness going on, this book is a beautiful little guide, and it has really beautiful affirmations in them as well. And it's just, it's really, really good. So when people are getting angry, and this is one of the reasons I can't really do arguments either, because of the whole vibration of an argument. My body can't deal with that. It shuts me down for a day or so. I can't afford to be shut down for a day or so. So if somebody wants to start an argument, I walk away. I just shut them down. I can't deal with it, because it's usually over something that they are not taking responsibility for, stuff that they haven't healed within themselves. And I'm not saying that, I'm totally innocent in all of it, but, as time goes on, as you do your own healing and time goes on, you learn to recognize what's your stuff and what somebody else's stuff is. Right. Now, some people still don't have the ability to do that. So they end up taking on board everybody else's stuff on board and taking it in. And then that transpires into some form of guilt, which again is not a good thing to carry around.
Or the other one, which I think it's time, a lot of people identify with the term as empathic or light worker. And it's good to be empathic. We need to be aware of other people's feelings, but we need to be empowered as empaths now. There is a lot of things that are being revealed in the world that are dark, and we can't turn away from them. We have to be able to look at them and be able to hold the knowing of them without being completely consumed by the whole thing. And even on the word as light worker, there's a word there, like the two words, light worker, work is work, and it doesn't have to be exhausting, but it takes a certain amount of effort in order to be able to do it. And like you say, of like when people can't kind of separate themselves from others, I think there's this kind of almost like this you feel this responsibility, we're all in this together. It's like we are sort of kind of, but not, like you say, we have to like heal ourselves and look at our own stuff and look at certain things that keep recurring in our lives, and not thinking it's just like because we've got some juju on us or it's a family curse or anything like that. It's when you take on board, I'm trying to paraphrase this Carl Jung one, it's like if you don't deal with the shadow in yourself, you will look at your life and you will call it fate, not realizing it is that same thing that's regurgitating. It's like, why do I keep going out with that same guy? The same guy with a different name. It's like, because there is that little thing that you need to sit and look at and then release yourself from it. And like you say, it will have this ripple effect of healing, in that even if you're not energetically or physically around people, you'll find that sometimes, they'll call you up, or even better, they won't even come by you again. You know what I mean? If that's the way that it needs to go.
Healing relationships doesn't always mean that you're bringing those relationships closer to you. Some of those relationships need to be as far away as possible. I want to pick up on two things that you mentioned. One word light worker, you know, you've got light and worker, and work doesn't have to be work in the sense that we know it. So one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Marilyn Harper, who channels Adironda. I don't know if you've heard of Marilyn.
No, I haven't.
Oh, she's amazing. She's part of the Cryon team. Are you aware of Cryon? Yeah, she's part of the Cryon team. And one of the things that Adironda and Marilyn Harper like to say, instead of light worker, they change it to light plurker.
Light plurker?
Yeah.
Plain.
Yeah, you're a light plurker. And then the other thing that you mentioned was...
Like I spoke about empaths as well around, was it to do with that?
Yeah, possibly.
The reason I mention it, because a lot of the time it's almost like these things as well, you know, light worker, light plurker. There's another one as well, light warrior or something like that, where at the moment where people are transmuting and moving into more awareness of what we are as spiritual beings, is there's almost these badges of honor that you want to wear, there's names that you want to have, you know, and so the empath is one where everyone's like, oh, I'm so empathic, but then take it on as like, I'm so empathic, I just can't deal. You know, it's like, no, like it's you're able to feel what's happening, but allow that to be an empowered empath, you know.
The word was empowered. That was what triggered what I wanted to discuss, was the empowering others. Now, the way I do it, because I am about empowering and inspiring other people to do their own healing. So what I have been teaching recently, which I wasn't teaching before, because I'm in the position now with my work where I feel that rather than be somebody's healer, it's now about you know, giving them the tools for transformation, right? So one of the things we did was a webinar teaching people how to muscle test for answers. So like, if you feel that something is off, your body has all the answers that you have ever wanted to ask it. And there are several ways which you can get those answers from your body, you know, several muscle testing techniques. And those can be self-muscle testing techniques, or they can be, you know, somebody else can muscle test you, which is known as kinesthetic kinesiology. And it's all measured on how it works. It's measured on the galvanic skin response. So which is the same that they use for the lie detectors. So basically, if you tell your body a lie, or if you tell a lie, that will stress your body and it will bring, you know, like sweat beads to the surface. And if you are telling the truth, or you're being truthful and standing in your power, guess what? You strengthen yourself rather than weaken your body with a lie. Yeah. So, and then I teach people the techniques in terms of how they can do it for themselves in case they're not able, especially, you know, since we've been like in this whole lockdown situation, which most of the world has been under. You can't really go out to physically see your kinesiologist to help you do this stuff, or, you know, your holistic practitioner. So, you know, I've been teaching people how to do that on Zoom calls and stuff like that. And they have found it incredibly useful because, you know, you can muscle test almost everything to do with you, not necessarily for other people. And it shouldn't be used for gambling or anything like that. Again, you know, lottery numbers, no, it's not going to work for that at all. So I do teach people how to muscle test themselves for indeficiencies in terms of vitamins and mineral deficiencies and things like that. And in terms of they can hold up, like, you know, I would say, okay, this is moringa, and they can say to themselves, they can hold it to their heart like that, and then they can do that muscle test and ask themselves a question. So with that finger rubbing muscle test, what people are looking for really is like a nice smooth circular action with their index finger and their thumb And basically you rub it and you say to yourself, you know, you could make a statement. It's better made in a statement. This vitamin I'm holding to my heart is good for me. And when it runs smooth, it's a yes. When I say this vitamin that I'm holding to my heart is bad for me, instantly I start to stick. Right. And the most subtle of stickiness, you know, some people think it has to be like a really hard stick. It's not. You're doing subtle movements and you're feeling for the subtlety in the movement. And, you know, some people get it straight away and others just don't. Or, you know, the other one they can do is the the sway test, where again you do the same and you either go forward for a yes or backwards for a no. However, not everybody always goes forward for a yes and backwards for a no. So I like to get people to calibrate their body and ask their body to show them the yes and no answers first. So, you know, that's just one of many useful techniques that people can use to derive at, you know, the truth, so to speak. For instance, there's so much going on in the world right now. People don't know what's true and what's not. You can muscle test that.
Well, that's I'd like written a couple of things down as well to like go on. That was because we are being bombarded with so much illusion and delusion. What does it, you know, I've got to the point now where I know what feels like truth and what feels like, you know, it's, and sometimes, like we were talking before, it's like when you see such ridiculousness being sent out there, it's actually hilarious. Yeah. You know, because it's like, how can they really think that we are going to be deluded by that? But the thing is, if you're under the illusion and under the spell of whatever kind of game plan or witchcraft or kind of hokey pokey that is going on, I don't even know what you're going to call it, but if you're under that spell that you don't see it or you don't feel it, that even when someone comes and tells you that the truth is in front of you, you don't even see that, you don't even hear them, or the cognitive dissonance is such that your cylinders just fire, and like you say, you go into a rage, or you cannot accept the truth. It's like, what is the trigger point for people? Because obviously when people come to you and they're on your webinars, they've got to a certain point of understanding that they're open to take responsibility for certain. So you still have to have gone through a certain amount of self-inquiry and a certain amount of steps and accountability before they even come to you. It's like when you're not even at that point, when it's always the government's fault or your parents' fault or your partner's fault or God's fault, when you're still in that space, it's like, when do you start to be able to hear it? Because I've got this thing, you know, you're talking about subtle, is I 100% believe that every person walking on the planet knows the truth and feels the truth and gets told the truth. Yes. And knows what true and lie is, whether they don't think about it or not, whether they're buying into the whatever mandates we're supposed to be going under, whatever the law is right now. I truly believe that people aren't as blind as they're playing, but there's some sort of level of fear that is keeping them in a spell. And because, you know, it does become subtle. It's like it is that kind, they say the still small voice of, like, you're like, something will present itself in front of you and everyone will be going like this and I'll be going, no. It's like, it's just like, it's absolutely not that, you know. It's like so many times where it's just been like an absolute yes, and you've just been like, that's not what I'm seeing. And I can't even pretend. And then it's like one is, I remember years I was with she's like a sister of a sister. I'm trying not to give people away, but she had this new guy with her, and, like, you know, she kind of like wanted to introduce her new boyfriend to the family, and it was like a kind of social event and everything. And I was just like watching this guy, and I'm just thinking, this guy doesn't want to be here at all. And she, you know, she was all over him, and she's getting a little bit tipsy. And then we, like, a few of us went into the bathroom, and they're all women, and she's like, so what do you think? You know, like, really excited, want to hear how it is. And everyone's going, yeah, it's really nice, it's really cool. And I was quiet, and it was like, what do you think, Kaz? You know what I mean? It's like everyone was like, yes. Like, okay, so like, okay, so what do you think, Kaz? And I'm like, you know, and I'm just like, how much truth do you want to know right now? Because I can see, and she thanked me later. She's like, do you know what? I actually knew, but she didn't want to admit it to herself at that point, especially because she'd made this big effort of going, I'm going to bring so-and-so to the thing, and you can see how this thing is. And it was just like, this guy is just not into you. He's just like, don't exert any more energy.
It's a comfort zone thing, though, isn't it? When people are in that comfort zone, sometimes it's very difficult to get them out of it. And it's exactly, well, it's almost similar to what we spoke about before when we said, you know, some people are just addicted to their own pain and they don't want to let go of it. It's similar in a way like that. It's just, it's a bit crazy how they just don't see it. But the other point I wanted to pick up on, something again that you mentioned, is that no, we don't get people on those webinars who are not awake, so or who are not even on that journey. Most people on the webinars are spiritual. They are on a journey of knowing themselves and a journey of inner standing rather than understanding. And many of them tend to be holistic practitioners who actually want to enhance the level of service that they offer within their practices. And so the muscle testing actually is a great addition as a really good tool for them to shortcut any sort of guesswork that they might be going through in a client call or a client consultation. They can just totally cut through that with muscle testing. And, you know, they can muscle test their client on Zoom, and the effect will just be the same as if the client was with you in a room face to face. So distance doesn't matter. And, you know, that alone should be telling people something. When we say that when you begin to heal the things that you need to heal within you, you begin to heal a whole bunch of people around you. And did you know that you can actually heal generations of your family? So, you know, it's
back.
Yeah, it's really important that we do this inner work. And some people call it shadow work or whatever you want to call it, you know, whatever resonates with you. It's really important for us to continue doing that. And I say continue because it is a continuous process. I've seen people say, well, yeah, I've done this and I've done that. And, you know, so I should be good, right? And I said this is what I like to say to them. And especially when it comes to detoxing as well, because I do detox courses and stuff like that. And I say to them, listen, you need to be very patient with yourself. How long have you been holding on to, or have you been carrying the excess weight that you've been carrying? Some people, it's like 10, 15 years and even more. But they are expecting an overnight healing process, yet there is another process that there are other steps that they need to take. And when it comes to energetic stuff as well, I say to people, be patient with yourself. How long have you been holding on to that particular emotion that has been playing out as a repeated pattern of behavior, self-sabotaging behavior at that, you know? So you've got a lot of stuff to, you know, unwrap, uncover, work on, let go. Don't expect an overnight recovery. Be patient with yourself.
I'm still meeting those challenges myself, you know, when I think of it, and I'm just like, okay, I understand, right, this is another thing that we need to work on, we need to focus on. And seeing how I'm holding on to, so like the other day I was talking to a friend, I'm like, I really understand my addiction to sugar now. Yeah. It's not just about, you know, because I do exercise, I do this, I eat really well, but that kind of thing is a trigger point that goes back all the way to how I used to soothe myself when I was young. And it's me now going, well, we don't need that, we don't need to self-soothe like that. And it's all good and well when you're young and your metabolism and your body can process that, but you get to a certain point where that soothing or that mechanism is actually going to cause you harm going forward, which then when I think about it, it's like, oh, actually I understand that for myself, but then I also understand it for all the generations like before me that then were like getting the high blood pressure or the overweight or the diabetes. The soothing that they were using these things for as well, because of unhealed things with themselves. I'm like, oh, you know, when the light goes off and the ping comes, and like, I get it. I can release it now because I'm going to be safe. I don't need to hang on to this because, one, I don't need it to hang on to, but also I'm not going to be vulnerable because, you know, it was holding on to that thing was like, if I don't have this, I'm not safe. I'm going to be attacked or under some level of danger, you know, but it takes, and I'm always on a thing, and, you know, that it's always interesting when I'm always talking about, you know, like if I meet someone, you know, you say something and you kind of know where someone is, not to judge, but just to gauge and be aware, is if so, you know, you say, oh, I'm working on this with myself, I'm doing this healing and everything like that. And they're like, oh yeah, I've done that. And their end of the sentence, you're like, okay, so so you haven't, but it just doesn't stop. You know, I've got friends who are in their 60s and onwards that are still talking about stuff that they're dealing with, still talking about stuff that comes up for them. They're like, oh my God, this thing came from like 30 years ago. I thought I dealt with it, and now, you know, but it's good that you can have conversations with, we all understand what we're trying to do, and peel off and peel off and peel off.
But on the flip side of that, also, you get friends, colleagues, I don't know, you know, other people around you who just constantly talk about the same thing over and over and over and over again, same issue. And you're doing as much as you can to actually help them. But, you know, my message is that nobody is going to help you until you start helping yourself. And for the people that keep talking about their traumas in such a negative way and are refusing to do something about it, you're just victimizing yourself over and over. And within that process, you will actually find that you're going to lose a lot of people that don't want to be around that level of negativity and traumas. You know, there is, okay, I'm not saying don't talk about your traumas, but be careful about how you're talking about them. Are you talking about them from a very painful experience that isn't designed to help anybody at all? You know, are you giving solutions, or are you just, whining is the wrong word. I don't mean to disrespect, and, you know, I'm not attempting to disrespect anybody that is at this stage. I'm hoping that by listening to this conversation, you will actually realize what stage you're at of your healing. And, you know, that is another stage of healing where you're constantly talking about the same thing over and over, but not doing anything about it.
And here, when someone in their best way lovingly tries to point something out to you, and sometimes it's not easy because, you know, the language that you want to use, sometimes subtle doesn't always work. You want to try and be gentle with somebody, you want to try and be subtle with them, and you try every which way, you know, you try a million ways, you keep trying to say the same thing in a loving way, and then eventually sometimes you just need to kind of like drop the book on the table and just go, listen.
Right, yeah,
this, you know, and maybe, you know, that will be I'll be shocked at, maybe not shocked out of it, but will be in that how dare you situation, and it'll cause an argument, but they won't forget it. And whether they do anything about it at that particular point in time or not, you know, or whether they don't speak to you, or whether they, you know, go and sit and lick their wounds and understand, or be like, how dare she say this, blah, 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 you know, but it will be a memory for you to, when you're ready to come back to, you know, hopefully sooner than later, that you can then start to understand that there is something to unpick and something to and work on, and it's painful, and sometimes it's embarrassing, and, you know, all of the things that we have to do to get through it. But then when you're on the other side of it, one, you start to learn more about yourself, you start to learn more about other people, you start to respect yourself more, you start to really understand what self-love is, you start to, and it opens your eyes up to the world. You know, like, you're able to see more and more when things are set up to trap you.
Yeah.
you can't not see.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of things being set up to trap you, and I know that earlier you spoke about, we touched on being the black sheep of the family. I have always been the black sheep of my family. I think right since the day I was born, really. I was just, I know for a fact that when I was 8 years old, I know somehow, I know that I've always had something different about me to other members of my family. I have always been able to see things that other people just around me can't. I'm not saying other people in the world can't see, you know, because everybody has their own unique gifts and talents, and I honor that. But I wasn't seeing that in my family. Since I was a child, my grandmother taught me how to interpret my own dreams. So I was able to, which was really creepy and really scary for an 8-year-old, to be able to see people dying, or should I say transitioning, at the moment of their transition. They chose me. Family members, close family members would choose me. And I'm thinking, my very first one, I was 8 years old, and I was in Uganda at the time, staying with my aunt. And it was probably about maybe 3, 4 in the morning, very early hours of the morning. And I had this dream of my aunt, who was ill at the time, but I didn't realize the seriousness of her illness, because, you know, it wasn't the type of person I would see every day. I wasn't really close to her in any way, shape, or form, because remember, I was always bouncing between, you know, Uganda and the UK, and I come from a huge family on both sides, my mom and my dad's side. So in my dream, I was standing in church at the altar. And my aunt was wearing the most beautiful white wedding dress, right? I'm even getting goosebumps now. The most beautiful white wedding dress. And she had this glow of light and like little twinkles, almost like little fairies around her. And she looked so happy. She looked the most happiest I've ever seen her. But then the more I focused on her, she started to glide. She wasn't even walking. She was just gliding down the aisle in this wedding dress with a veil on, towards me. And the closer she got towards me, I was getting scared. So I just woke up. And in that moment of waking up, I actually knew right there and then she had just transitioned. Based on everything my grandmother had taught me about my dreams,
Wow.
I thought to myself, I can't tell anybody this. I'm 8 years old. They'll burn me like a witch. Or I'll end up at some witch doctor's being cut to bits with medicine, me doing some juju or something. Or they'll try and beat the devil out of me, you know? So I was so scared for myself, my life. And I just thought, you know what, Helen, sit with it. The saving grace was I could always speak to my grandmother about these things, and she would always understand. Nobody else outside of that would understand. And so from then on, throughout my life, even as an adult, I saw my grandfather transition. Literally, I was... sorry, just going back to my aunt, that very same morning, later on that morning, we had somebody come over to the house to say that she'd passed around about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Because we didn't have telephones then.
Yeah. Come and knock on the door.
Deliver the message. So then, you know, moving on to my grandfather was the next one. And I was in the house next door. Again, he was ill, but I didn't realize the seriousness of his illness. And he was suffering from some sort of alcohol-related disease. I didn't even know what it was. It may have been cirrhosis of the liver or whatever. Anyway, I had this dream about my grandfather, and all I could see was his face. I couldn't see the rest of his body. Everything behind him was dark, just pitch black. But there was a light that almost like shone up on his face. And again, I could see the little fairy lights kind of twinkling, moving around him. And I was awoken out of that dream by my aunt screaming loudly next door because she just found him dead on the floor. He'd fallen out of his bed. So again, I couldn't say anything. I really could not say anything. And then my grandmother, when she transitioned, I saw her transitioning. And then my brother, my eldest brother, he passed away. And when he was transitioning, I saw him again. We were, my dream was we were at a party with, you know, friends, familiar faces around us. And he came to me and he tapped me on the shoulder. And I turned around and my brother Henry was there. And he said to me, "Hey, sis, listen, I've got to leave early." And he gave me the biggest hug. And somebody else tapped me on the shoulder. And I turned around the other way. And I briefly turned around. And by the time I turned back around, my brother was gone. Because I meant to say, "Okay, bye, see you later." But I woke up out of that dream feeling really weird. I thought to myself, something's not right. My brother's just passed.
Oh.
Because literally when we used to party, as you know, in our teenage years, whatever, in our 20s, I was always the one to leave the party early, not him. So that was a big indicator to me in the dream. So, you know, things like that. And this is why I say I've always seen things differently from other members of my family, people around me growing up, and I couldn't speak about it. And it wasn't until my brother actually transitioned, even then, it took me probably 2 years before I said to my mum, sat her down and I said, "Mum, I need to tell you this. But first of all, you know, when Grandma transitioned, when Henry transitioned, did you ever feel anything?" And she said, "Not with Grandma, but, you know, with your brother, I just couldn't sleep all night and blah, blah, blah. I felt really troubled." And then I told her everything from when I was 8 years old. So now when I work with my clients, I actually work intuitively with them. A lot of the times I don't need to muscle test something unless they really want me to muscle test it. I just obviously just bring in the guides, invoking the guides to surround us and, you know, help with whatever healing and shifts that need to be made. And that's how I work.
But it's so beautiful to hear you say that and to just know that kind of thing. I've never really spent much time on dreams, but then every now and again I'll have a dream where there's a feeling.
Yeah.
And I'll wake up from the feeling going, why do I feel that way? And the one that there's one that I've had recently that has been like, it's because it was so vivid and so clear that I'm waiting for what I feel that is showing me to happen. It's like, okay, I know something is gonna transpire, and when it happens, at least I was warned about it, because they're never literal. The one that was like really shook me was about a year or so ago, or like nearly 2 years now, and I woke up from a dream and I was at a friend's house, friend at the time, and they were accusing me of something. They were accusing me of stealing something from them, and I was trying to like explain to them, going, "No, I wouldn't do that." And I was like spending so much energy trying to tell them the way that something was, and they just wouldn't hear me. You know, they'd be like, "No." I'm like, "But that's not what happened. Let me tell you what happened." And I couldn't, like, woke up from the dream going like, "That was odd. Why do I feel that?" I couldn't work it out. And then about a month or so, 2 months later, they got in contact with me about a situation that had happened, and they wouldn't hear me on it. They wouldn't hear my version of events. And I was trying to say, they'd be like, "Listen, you got to do this, you got to do that." I'm like, "No, that's not." I'm like, "Why do you think I did this?" Because I took an action that didn't make sense to anyone, because it was getting spun in a different way. And I'm like, "No," but I'm like, you know, when you're trying to literally kind of put your case forward and go, "Well, why do you think I would make this choice in the situation?" "No, but you should do this." I'm like, "But I did this. I actually put myself in a position of vulnerability to get out of a situation," and they couldn't hear me. And I was so devastated by it, more devastated by the situation that had caused the situation, until a couple of days later, where I'm like, "Oh my God, I had the dream of being in that energy with that person, where I was trying to show them something, where I was trying to explain to them my version of events, and they weren't hearing it, because they had taken it that I was guilty of something that I was not guilty of." And since then, I'm like, okay, next time I have one where I wake up and I'm like, what? I'm just gonna take it as something is around, you know, with that person, or they're not going to understand, or a situation is going to turn, and know that it, you know, stay true to it, but just be aware that a situation is going to turn. And it's happened recently, and I'm like, I can see which way it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons that I just when I wake up in the morning, I don't like anybody disturbing me because my dreams are very important to me. And so when I wake up, I tell everybody, please give me at least 10, 15 minutes before you bombard me with anything. I mean, my phone doesn't even go on for another 3 hours after I've woken up, so I don't want to interact with the world. I just want that peace, calm, and serenity just to internalize dreams and, just analyze them and just focus on myself and center myself and ground myself, all the things that you do to start your day. We'd like to think we can do that every day. It doesn't happen every day. So, no, I'm not an angel.
But you're trying, and you're aware that it's a thing. So
I'm aware that it's a good practice to do on a regular basis, but I don't do it every day religiously. Because sometimes situations don't allow for that. So, and I know people who develop morning routines, and then they get really mad at themselves when they can't actually fulfill that routine for one reason or other. I'm like, you know what, just chill. It's life. It's called life. It's ever changing. Yeah. Let's go with the flow.
Oh gosh, thank you. And I could talk for hours, but let's just keep it going for time being. The first question I want to ask is, what would you say was the main tool for your awakening?
The main tool for my awakening is really meditation. Just, the beauty of silence. I would say silence and meditation. And I am one of these people that I don't necessarily need people around me to, keep me entertained or keep my mind busy. In fact, the less busy my mind is, the better. So meditation and grounding myself are the best tools for my awakening. Oh my gosh, I had a rude awakening on meditation. In my sort of earliest journeys to spiritual awakening, I actually astro traveled. Now, I say it was a rude awakening. I had read about it, so in my consciousness, I was aware of it. I was aware of everything that could possibly happen. And yeah, I had a moment of astro travel, and it freaked me out so much that I just went, what's happening? Where am I going? And, anybody that's ever astro traveled will know that once you ask questions, you're back in your body again. You're not going anywhere. So from that moment onwards, I thought, wow, I can do that. This is great. So I tried it again and again and again. And, the first few attempts failed. I think because I was too much in my own way and just so wanting it to happen. And of course, with these things, you just have to relax with it, go with the flow. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then, the second time I did it, it was literally the most amazing experience. But I was told to come back down again. I was told it's not your time. You need to go back. And I was back in my body again. I could literally see myself from the bed where I was doing the meditation. And it was freaky, but at the same time, fun.
It's so good when you have those experiences. There's been, and I can remember it, and I've tried to get back to this space, and I've come close, but not quite. And I had this meditation. I was in this workshop with this guy called, I think his name was James D'Angelo Angelis, or something angelical, right? And it was very much about sound and sound therapy and that kind of thing. And he'd done, I don't know if you've ever seen anyone do overtone singing at all, where it's like the most transformative thing. They hold a note, and I'm a singer, so I know that's not an easy thing. So they'll almost like hold a note continuously, and then after a while you'll hear a second tone circulating in the room. It is like the most celestial experience. You're like there going, oh my God, you realize there's so much more.
Is that also called the pineal tones?
I don't know, actually, because this I think is a different thing. I don't know. Say that again.
Dr. Todd Overkitis specializes in the Lemurian choir and the pineal tones as well. It's absolutely amazing. Have a look at Dr. Todd Ovakaitis.
I recognize the name. I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but I'll see if I can.
Yeah,
I'll see if it is the same thing, because all he was doing was just singing one continuous note. So already you had to kind of get into circular breathing, and then the second tone was coming. But it wasn't even that part of the workshop that did it for me. We went into a really deep meditation where he guided us with tuning forks, and he was like coming and he was like placing tuning forks on our different chakras and walking around. So he was like getting us into a really deep space. Oh, you've got one, amazing. And oh, you've got a set.
I have a set. I use it in my healing practice when I need to, when I feel something's really heavy and it just needs to shift. And when I use it, you literally see the vibration of the energy that they've been holding on to just going on camera. It's almost like the most freakiest thing ever. But yeah, healing forks, amazing.
He did that. He took us into this, he got us into this space. And I remember like I closed my eyes, and you know when you close your eyes, you can still, especially if there's light in the room, you can still kind of see through the membrane, you know, there's just like this red or anything like that. So he'd just continue, and I don't know how long we were in this space for. And then after a while, there was like almost like, you see like certain reptiles have a second eyelid.
Yeah.
And it felt like a second eyelid came down, and then it went dark, but it didn't go black. It wasn't, and I was in this kind of dark space, but it wasn't a black space. It was a deep navy, because black seems really flat, but navy seems infinite.
Yeah.
So I was just in this like really expansive, infinite, deep navy blue kind of space. And then, so, you know, he just continued like invoking whatever he was doing. And then I heard this voice that was my voice, but it just kind of came to me and went, anything is possible. And then, you know, when you're just like, what, and then you pull yourself out of it because you start questioning the situation. And I've been like, oh my God, that was the deepest, most, where did I go? What was that thing? And I've been trying to get back there for 15 odd years because it was just such a like, oh my goodness. But it was a thing that like, I remembered it wasn't me, but it was my voice going, anything is possible. And at that point I was like, there it is, you know, and at that point it was just going forward. But I'll never forget that depth of that space of that kind of, I don't know where that was, but I want to go back there, you know.
I love the voice, your voice that you heard yourself in the meditation. I get those voices too. And it's usually, I go into meditation when I am faced with a challenge and I just need some guidance beyond my logical brain, of course. Yeah. And I just need to get out of my way. And then I will ask the question before I go into the meditation. And by the time I come out of that meditation, I usually don't come out of the meditation until I get the answer on some level. But, you know, if I don't quite have the time, I think, okay, fine, I'm sure the answer will come to me at some point. But yeah, I do, you'll hear like a voice and it comes through as clear as day. And you go, what? Who's here? Anybody else in the room with me? But yeah, it freaks you out at first, but, you know, you get used to communicating with, you know, your inner self, your etheric body, and just amazing.
I'm kind of used to it now. It's just like when I'm getting like, you know, a knowing or a thing, it's just like, oh, I get told something, or like the idea for this whole podcast was just like, you know, like get your pen ready. Here it comes, you know, and it's just so I know to hear that and also as a musician and a writer, like that's the way it comes in. So you kind of get used to that. You're not listening to, you're kind of open to like just, you're channeling, you're taking it, you're bringing it through from this second different sphere, dimension, place, wherever, and pulling it in and making it physical and tangible so that you can actually pass it around all the other souls that are on the planet. It's magical, you know, when you get that stuff, it's like, why doesn't everyone want to do this? So much fun, you know. And yeah, so I love that. And you know, you're talking about astral travel. I can't say I've had any of those journeys yet, but what I'm looking forward to is, as the energies lighten and as we move on forward into this new age that we're burgeoning into right now, when all of those little tools and those spiritual abilities and extra senses that we have are just going to come on board, and we're going to take it as natural as, I can hear, I can smell, I can see you. It's just going to be like, oh, I'm just going to jump over and just like kind of like jump over and see my friend who lives in Africa now. You know what I mean?
You can totally do that. In one session, I astro traveled, and I was actually in Uganda. I recognized the location exactly where I was, but in that instance, I was in a different timeline, and I was able to see things that are now I found out about probably last year. And I did this came to me, about 7 years ago, that I saw what actually happened last year, various things with different people. I entered this house, and it had the longest corridor. On both sides of the corridor were different rooms. All the doors to the rooms were closed. And I chose to go to the left. Don't ask me why. I chose to go to the left of the room, and I started opening these doors. In one door, I can't tell you who I saw because it's too close and it would be too revealing. But there was a situation where I opened the door, and this woman was pregnant, and her partner was having an affair, shall we say, right there and then in the room. Wow. And this pregnant woman is sat there on the bed while it's all going on behind her. Okay. And she's just looking the other way, completely turning the blind eye. And I thought, what is going on there? Anyway, I shut the door and I moved on to another door, and I saw various other things, which have now transpired. All these things happened last year. And that's how far in advance I saw them happening. And then I opened the last door right at the end of the corridor. And I just went out, and I was back in Uganda, in the town I grew up in Kamwatcha. I knew exactly where I was, but I had gone way back in time. So I traveled across like 3 different timelines, from entering the house to being in the house to being out the other side of the house. It was fascinating. It was amazing.
And it's when you like realize that these things are available to us, and through suppression of information, through poisoning, has just kind of dampened us down in those abilities. That when we start to kind of exist on a different plane as humans, like the experience and the life that is possible and is awaiting us. That's why just do come on, let's do the work, let's get rid of those little things, because this is our birthright, this is what we came for, not this, but we came at this time to be the ones that like turned it over and opened it up for more. I'm excited, it's crazy, isn't it? There's so much for us. I mean, and leading on to the next question, what would you say is a tool for other people's awakening, if you were to pass something on?
Okay, if I was to pass something on, the tool for other people's awakening has to be your intuition, your inner guidance, inner GPS. And it's not in your brain. We have been lied to so much about our brains. We are more than our brains. And remember earlier, I said that we are superhuman. And I've just given you all the little examples as to why we are superhuman and how we can be superhuman. So rather than, if something doesn't resonate with you, and in the back of your mind, it's niggling you, even though your brain is saying it's true, but your heart, check with your heart. If your heart isn't feeling it, there's a reason why. Investigate.
For sure. And what are your favorite rituals and self-care practices?
My favorite ritual is time alone. As much as I love people, and I really do, I love people to the core, but the thing is, I I love my time also by myself. One of the reasons I wake up at 3 and 4 in the morning, and I have like an hour or 2 hours to myself even before I start work, to center myself, to ground myself, and just to be present with myself. It's my favorite. Absolutely, it has to be time alone.
Yeah, I agree and relish every moment. And
time alone is their worst nightmare
I
ever.
know.
And this is why people who just want to keep themselves busy. I know on the surface it looks like I am one of the busiest person in the world, but I do find that time to have by myself before I have to do X, Y, and Z. And there are people out there who time alone to themselves almost sounds like a form of punishment, and they can't do it. They can't sit and be still with themselves. It is the most beautiful gift that you will ever give yourself. Being busy 24/7 is actually one of the reasons we have gotten ourselves globally into the global mess and the global show that we are seeing right now.
Yeah.
Because we're being to look into things. We're being distracted all the time.
Yeah.
Now is the time to be by yourself. You're in lockdown, be by yourself and enjoy.
I love it.
The time.
I absolutely adore my own company way too much sometimes, and people take it the wrong way. They think I'm being rude. It's like, no, honestly, I'm a much better person if I have some time to myself. You'll enjoy me more, because the minute that I start to feel that I'm like, okay, I need to just go and hear myself.
Yeah.
Because if there's too much noise or too much chatter, or if I'm to be engaged in like needless conversation about nothing, I'm like, I can't. It causes me almost discomfort. I find it rude. That's what I find rude. I'm like, I feel rude sitting here talking to you about something that I know that I don't care about. I have no interest in. I don't want to know any more about it. I'd sooner sit down and it's like, let me go and contemplate a few things, and then we can go deep and wide. And yeah, if you want to talk surface, but there's so much more to explore. But if we just got to keep it on, isn't the weather nice? And it's like, yeah, it is. But if you want to talk about the weather, let's talk about the weather. You know what I mean? That's if you want to talk about the weather with me.
Weather manipulation systems by NASA. No, they don't want to hear that. What do you mean? And
exactly.
Really angry with you, and you're like, why are you getting angry? It's a fact. Have you seen the D-class files recently? Oh, what do you mean the D-class files? Well, yeah, the CIA and FBI D-class files on NASA and the weather manipulation systems. Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to sound like a know-it-all.
No, but that's the thing, is like, if you want to talk about the weather, that's the conversation that we have. That's talk about the weather. About the weather.
No, the BBC says it's going to rain today, and then Thursday, Friday we've got sunshine. Over the weekend we might have some cloud. Okay, yeah.
Or I'd be like, well, why do you think every time that we have a full moon it's cloudy? Isn't that coincident? It's just that's where it's going to go with me if you want to talk about that kind of stuff.
I feel you. I hear you.
It's going to be that level. Oh gosh. So last one. What's next for you? Can you tell everyone about your academy and your broadcasting? And I know you've got so much going on.
Yes, there is so much going on, but it's all good stuff. And the good thing is, I've managed to finally structure everything in a way that really supports me having more time to myself and more time with family and, just more time. Because obviously time is so precious and it's just wonderful. Yeah. And it's also manipulated, but that's another story. That's another conversation for another show. So okay, so the academy, with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, I felt that we need to perhaps start moving away from this has been such a terrible time. 2020 was so terrible. 2021 is going to be even worse. Oh, look at what the CIA are doing. Look at what this person is doing. And let's show all the pedophilia. So I think we've done enough red pilling as it is, because in, when was it? I think it was either August or September of 2020, we actually started a show called This Is Life. And the idea behind that show was to actually start to slowly awaken people to the realities of what the news media, mass media were reporting in the news. But what they weren't really telling you is what we cover on This Is Life. So from a truth perspective, that's what we do with the show. And the show is co-hosted by myself and my co-host Arnold, who is actually an ex-app developer for Apple. So the guy knows a few things also. So we did that last year, and we were putting it out every Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 10 a.m. Currently, we've gone down to one show because there is that much going on. And we actually feel that things that people are starting to see now, we actually covered way back last year. So we don't need to go, sort of full on 2 shows a week. We're down to 1 show a week. And at the moment, we are pre-recording that just in case, we lose electricity or whatever happens, internet goes down. And you can find that at lgtv.live. It also all the episodes actually sit on my academy as well, which is venushealthacademy.com. And so with everything that's been going on, I am shifting from, let's talk about all the nasty things that have been happening and put them out there, to actually, you know what, as more things are beginning to unfold, and I do believe there's going to be a shift in the media as well, within the next few days, the next few weeks, we're going to see a lot of media houses disappearing, and the reasons for that will become very apparent, but there will also be very disturbing for some people and are likely to cause cognitive dissonance to a lot of people out there. With that realization, I decided to focus on the academy and focus on health and well-being and business, in the sense that the people who are perhaps going to be emotionally disturbed by the revelations of what is going to be revealed will need some form of support. Now, not everybody is going to want to go out there and see a counselor, spill their issues or their traumas to everyone.
And also, and to add on to that, there are the counsellors in themselves. There are a lot of counsellors out there that are
going through trauma too.
Yeah.
So I thought the best thing to do is support people through the academy by giving them the tools for transformation, focusing emotional well-being, health and physical well-being, focusing on businesses, because, let's not forget the fact that there are industries out there that will never come back because of the global shift that we're going through, and they could never come back because of the revelations that are about to come to light as well. So when you've got lots of people like that losing jobs, obviously there's going to be a huge amount of emotional issues flying around. But not only that, then you've got the boredom that is going to set in within them, because they're going to be thinking, I've got nothing to do or whatever. Or, you will have some people thinking, okay, I need to go down a different route. So, what can I do? So we can guide them through that, and how you find your purpose. We can guide them through their daily routine, developing a new daily routine that is more positive and supportive towards the person that you want to become or transform into. We have spiritual tools for transformation, such as the muscle testing that I talked about. And then, on top of that, we've got obviously the business tools as well that they can tap into. whether they're beginners or just, you're already on that business journey. We all need a little help somewhere. So the Academy has ebooks. It also has tips, whether it's business tips, health tips that you can get for free. There's free stuff on there. It's got short courses. And the reason we have kept the courses short in the Academy is really because I think we're moving, I feel that we are moving away from this need to be academic in the traditional sense of the word, in that, we should be spending years learning at universities and colleges. No disrespect to anybody who has a degree or is on that path whatsoever, but I'm just acknowledging that there is also an emerging section of society that doesn't want to do that anymore, and they want to find bite-sized courses online that they can do within a day or a couple of days or a week. So that's how the courses are structured, and it's not courses by test as well. There's no test at the end of it. I hated tests as a child. They were traumatic. So I don't intend to traumatize anybody in that way either, because I think that side of things is changing too. So it's really giving, equipping, empowering people with practical tools that they can use for themselves while they're at home. They can transfer those tools, teach their own families or whatever. And the Academy really is actually, it's not just me, it's a joint effort of conscious creators around the world, because going forward, everything we do in business has to be inclusive rather than exclusive. The moment you start excluding people, therein comes, the issue, and therein comes what we are or have been experiencing globally for so many years. It was all down to exclusive clubs, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
and the nature of businesses that are thriving are very much more on a collaborative scale, aren't they? And more of, people plug in, where there's no centralized point, really. You're thinking of things like Airbnb, or where it's just like there is a business model there, but there's not necessarily that one person owns the property and everyone comes in and works for it. It's everyone comes in and plugs in and shares and makes it more of a community collaborative based thing, and that's what I'm looking forward to as well in working in that way. And I think at the core of it, most people want that, because going back to empowering, it allows you to actually bring to the fore your skills, as opposed to looking at a job description and saying okay, I can do this, and then not being given the room. That was the old structure as well. It's like if you went into an organization and you had a skill outside of that, not every old structure would allow you to be creative within that. Whereas if you've got someone that's fluid and wants their business to thrive, but you also want thriving people within that, because some people need to work with other people. Not everyone's an entrepreneur.
No. And, I'm recognizing that also. And one of the other things we do with the Academy is when people purchase, whether it's an item, because you can't purchase singular items from the Academy. You don't have to, sign up for a membership, although it makes more sense from a value perspective to have a membership. But basically, once you purchase something from the Academy, then you automatically are given access to our regular webinars, where you can come onto the webinar and we talk about health, we talk about business, we talk about spirituality. We basically go with the flow of the vibe at the time and what, people need to know about. Because one of the reasons I put that into place is because just recently I have started to receive a huge amount of questions from people, whether, they're existing clients or family members or colleagues or just people I know from social media. Helen, what's happening with this? Helen, that. And I'm just saying, look, go to the Academy and access This Is Live, or go to lgtv.live and access This Is Live, episodes that we've done previously, which pretty much talk about what has been happening in the background. And, if you still feel you have questions, you can pop your questions over to me within the academy. And then when we have the webinar, we can talk about these things openly, because of course, the other thing that I'm finding, I don't know about you, but women at the moment are really struggling from the perspective that we seem to be a lot more awake and a lot more willing to stand in our power no matter what, compared to our male counterparts. Now, I don't know whether this is just a UK thing, because I'm hearing it mainly from the UK, women within the UK. And on a really sad note, it's becoming a domestic issue within relationships where they can't talk about, they can't be seen to support the Trump administration or anything like that, because their partners either don't want to hear about it or they become incredibly abusive towards them within the relationship. So, I want to be able to support women like that as well, and allow them, not just women, but, anybody that's going through that right now. It's really not an easy thing to go through. It's not a nice thing to go through.
There has been a deliberate demasculization of men anyway.
Yes.
Over the years, and it's done in such a very kind of gentle kind of, you wouldn't even really notice that the frog is being boiled in the water until it's last minute, and it's too hot, it's too hot, and you're boiled and you're done. There has been this thing, whereas like you've taken away that gladiator alpha male has been demonized, so that when you see a man standing up for himself, standing up for his family, roaring and kicking a few tables over if that needs to be done, you consider that to be the most terrible thing. And then you've got this kind of wimpy, demasculated, not even feminated, if that's the word, but feminized man, who's then not able to stand up and stand up to, as we're going through now, the tyranny of the situation. You feel too afraid to do it, and then when you see men do that, you have to then lash out at them, because they are doing the very thing that you know that you've lost within themselves. And it's a level of jealousy, and it's a long old story. Honestly, I can take that one to the bank and back,
Yeah, honestly, because I'm getting women saying to me, Helen, how do I deal with this situation? I don't know if I can take it anymore, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And, of course, on some level, we all know, on a soul level, the people you're with at the moment, you were meant to be with. And if you weren't really meant to be with them, then it's time to let them go. Yeah. And, how do you do that? How do you protect yourself from all of this and stay sane within it without creating, too much of, I don't know, let's say an earthquake or a volcano within your relationship type of thing. There are ways of going about this without being explosive about it. And so these are the things that we talk about in webinars, and just, it's just open discussions.
Which is what we need, that I think there's so much at the moment that people are feeling and not yet saying, or not yet knowing how to say. And if we can start to get them out in the air and let them be what they are, let them be messy, let the conversations be had, so at least we can see that these are thoughts that are going on. And as we start to voice all of this, and we'll start to hear common ground, we'll realize that this has been something that we've all collectively been dealing with, and yet not felt the courage to bring it forward, and realizing, because certain things have been put upon us, that has created these ruptions within our individual. It has been a structured and a very calculated move to demasculinize men, is that the word, and to also shatter the structure of a family, and these things have been set in place and run their course. It's not by accident, it's been by total design. And we want to come back to allow women to be women and feminine, allow men to be masculine, be able to kind of bring that masculinity into yourself as a woman when is necessary, but then drop it, and don't think that you're losing anything, because how are you going to have that, if that's what you want, to have that polarity relationship, whether it's two men, two women, man and woman? One's got to be the other. And it's when we're confused that you know, people kind of don't know how to deal with that, but we can get back to it. You know, I'm ready for those times, and it's here because we're having a conversation now.
Honestly, and just to back up what you're saying with men being having been slowly demasculated, it's usually the men that sit at home and are watching TV, and they are stuck to the news as well, whatever news channel it is. I'm not going to, you know, stipulate any, but it's usually people that are conditioned just to watch television and watch all these programs that are just, I don't even know what to say about them. I really don't. Yeah, but there is that common denominator.
Yeah. Helen, can you just let everyone know where we can find all of the amazing things that you do?
Okay, so first of all, with This Is Life, it goes live on a Thursday. It goes out, on a Thursday, and that's on Roku TV, on Learn Global TV on Roku. Yeah, the channel's Learn Global on Roku. And then you can also watch it on lgtv.live. And I've got my academy, which is venushealthacademy.com. And there is also, so about 6 months ago, which is roughly when I left Facebook, I think, I set up my own social media prior to leaving Facebook. Actually, I set it up in March when this whole pandemic kicked off, right? So I thought, something stinks here. So I'm going to start up my own social media. So I did. And that's venusclubhealth.com. So on venusclubhealth.com, we believe in total freedom of speech. And there are various groups on there, everything from your red pilling stuff to your health. For instance, there's a colloidal silver group. Not a lot of people know about colloidal silver, but it would have really saved them from getting the flu and sick and stomach bugs and everything else at a period which, you know, you can't even get in to see a doctor. So that's one of many of the useful groups that we have in there. So if you're looking for some guidance in terms of health and just head over to www.venusclubhealth.com and sign up. It's completely free. It's private, so you have to request to sign up. We don't just want to let everybody in. So we like to have, you know, really good, like-minded souls on board.
Thank you for today and the conversation. It's been great to just share and find out more about you and open up these conversations that, you know, this is just the beginning of conversations like this and people wanting to hear that there are other like-minded souls out there, there are other women out there, there are other Black women out there that are awakening and want to help with the awakening. So I really appreciate your time today.
And thank you for having me on the show as well. You know, it's been both a pleasure and an honor to be on your show. I mean, you and I can just talk forever because we are so alike, and you know, even like little background stories. I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I've done that. I've been through that. So it's actually really been an honor to, and I'm just going to put it out there and say it as it is, to meet another Black woman who happens to be on the same page, who doesn't do all this PC nonsense, who's not into the, you know, hashtag Black Lives Matter, and, you know, just a woman who just is, you know, willing and ready to just say it as it is and just be kind and open-hearted at the same time. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen, for being a guest on this week's Her Conversations, and thank you for listening. You can find out more about me on my website, which is carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaewhittick.com. You can find me on Instagram, on Parler, and on Twitter under Casmic, so that's CAZMICK, and on other social media networks under my name, Carol May Whittick. So wishing you all the best for this week. Thank you once again. Take care. Bye.